Nobody knew exactly where the deserted city was. Some travelers claimed it appeared beyond the mountains during heavy fog. Others insisted it didn't exist at all. Maps showed nothing. Satellites found nothing. Yet stories about the city had survived for generations. According to local legends, anyone who entered the city would discover streets frozen in time, cars parked perfectly along empty roads, store windows filled with untouched merchandise, lights glowing inside abandoned buildings. Everything looked normal, except for one thing. There were no people, not a single soul. Most considered the stories nonsense. Daniel Harper did not. A travel journalist known for investigating unusual places, Daniel spent years searching for forgotten towns and hidden locations. When he heard rumors about the deserted city, curiosity consumed him. After months of research, he finally found an elderly shepherd living near the mountains. The old man listened quietly as Daniel described the city. Then his face turned pale. "You can go there," the shepherd said. "But if you hear your name after sunset, don't answer." Before Daniel could ask what that meant, the old man walked away. 3 days later, Daniel began his journey. The mountain trail was difficult. Fog covered the landscape. Visibility dropped to only a few meters. For hours, he climbed through silence. Then he saw it. A city, standing in the middle of nowhere. Huge buildings emerged from the mist. Traffic lights blinked normally. Street lamps glowed softly. The city looked alive. Yet no sounds came from within. No engines. No conversations. Nothing. Daniel entered cautiously. The streets were spotless. Newspapers rested on benches. Coffee cups sat untouched on outdoor tables. Store displays looked freshly arranged. It felt as though every resident had vanished only minutes earlier. Then Daniel noticed something strange. Every clock he passed displayed the same time. 5:55 p.m. The clocks inside shops. The clocks in office buildings. Even a broken wristwatch lying on the sidewalk. All showed 5:55 p.m. No matter where he looked. The same time. The same moment. Frozen forever. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the buildings, a cold wind swept through the empty streets. And somewhere far away, Daniel heard a voice, whispering his name. Daniel immediately remembered the shepherd's warning. "If you hear your name after sunset, don't answer." The voice came again. Soft. Distant. Almost impossible to hear. Daniel. His heart raced. The streets remained empty. No movement. No people. Only silence. Trying to ignore the voice, he continued exploring. As darkness covered the city, the atmosphere changed. The fog became thicker. Streetlights flickered. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the pavement. Then Daniel noticed movement. A figure stood behind a second-floor window. Watching him. Relieved, he waved. The figure didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't react. Daniel crossed the street for a better look. The moment he reached the building, the figure vanished. Confused, he entered the lobby. Nobody was inside. The stairs led to an empty apartment. No furniture. No signs of life. Nothing. Then he saw another figure. This time in a building across the street. Standing perfectly still behind a window. Watching. Again. Daniel hurried outside. The figure disappeared before he arrived. Soon more figures began appearing. One in a hotel. Another in an office tower. Several inside a department store. Everywhere he looked, silent people stood behind glass, watching him. Yet whenever he approached, they vanished. Hours passed. The city seemed endless. Then Daniel reached the central square. At its center stood a massive digital clock. Unlike the others, it was still running. 5:56 p.m. 5:57 p.m. 5:58 p.m. The first clock in the city that actually moved. Beneath it was a message carved into stone. "The city waits for those who answer." Suddenly, every light in the square went dark. The digital clock stopped, and dozens of voices whispered Daniel's name at once. The whispers surrounded him. Hundreds of voices. Men, women, children, all repeating the same word. Daniel. The sound echoed through every street, every building, every shadow. Fear finally overcame curiosity. Daniel decided to leave. He ran toward the road he had used to enter the city. But something was wrong. The road was gone. The mountains had disappeared. Only endless streets remained. No matter where he turned, the city continued. Block after block, building after building, without end. Then he saw them. The silent figures. No longer hidden behind windows. They now stood in the streets. Hundreds of them. Motionless. Watching. Their faces looked normal. almost human, but their eyes were completely black. Daniel backed away. The crowd never moved. Yet somehow they seemed closer every time he blinked. Then an old woman stepped forward. Unlike the others, she spoke. We answered. Daniel stared at her. What does that mean? The woman pointed toward the sky. Long ago, she explained, travelers occasionally discovered the city hidden within the fog. When the voices called their names, most answered. The moment they responded, they became part of the city. Trapped forever, their bodies remained. Their lives continued, but they could never leave. Over time, they became the silent figures watching from the windows, waiting for new visitors, waiting for someone else to answer. The city fed on names. It survived through curiosity, through attention, through a single response. Suddenly Daniel remembered something. Throughout the night, he had heard the voices, but he had never answered. Not once. The old woman smiled. Then you still have time. The fog around him began moving. The city started fading. Buildings dissolved into mist. Streetlights vanished. The silent figures disappeared one by one. Daniel ran, for what felt like hours. Then suddenly he emerged onto the mountain trail. The city was gone. Only fog remained. Years later, Daniel published a book describing his experience. Most readers dismissed it as fiction, but hidden within the final page was a warning. If you ever find a city where every clock reads 5:55 p.m. and you hear your name after sunset, do not answer.